I'm Twyla.
And I'm Natalie.
And this is Twyla and Natalie.
We're going to chat with you all about the joys, the pitfalls of being a grown woman.
We are. I'm going to apologize up front because I have a cold, so I sound ridiculous.
Really?
today.
I can't really tell.
That's insulting.
Had you not told me.
That's insulting.
Why?
Because I know I sound terrible today. And you said you can't tell the difference, which means I sound terrible all the time. I resent that. You should have told me.
I
I'm hurt.
stand by what I said. You listeners, you'll have to tell us.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I don't want to know. Now I'm
Does
upset.
Twyla sound like the hot mess that she thinks she sounds like?
I think I do. It's not okay. I'm sorry. So
just please turn your head if you're going to cough or sneeze.
Yeah, just for that, I'm just like right at you. That's it. I'm going to get a megaphone. I'm going to get like one of those cones, like the dog head cones, and just breathe in your direction. Okay, every week on this show, we ask a question. It's usually something that is going on in our lives, or sometimes it's about something we've been thinking about, and we try to answer that question as best as we can for ourselves and for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And this week's question is, can you let someone else be right even if you know they're wrong? Well, you know what I said when Natalie came up with this question, and when we talked about it sort of in the pre-production today, and she asked the question, and I said nope.
Which is how I thought she would answer it, but I'm like, well, and when we ask these questions of ourselves, we know what the questions are right before we do the show. We don't get into it too much, so I immediately told Twyla to shh.
Yeah,
hush it.
No, don't stop talking. This is good. Don't talk about it.
And when I was thinking about this, I see this predominantly with my stepkids, and I was watching them the other day. We were having dinner, and they were having a conversation and getting into an argument about a minor detail about something. It was something on the lines of that the cup was blue. The other one said, no, it was red. Now, keep in mind, the story one was telling had nothing to do with the cup. It was just a minor player in it.
Right.
And they couldn't let it go. And I thought, this is not just children who do this. We as adults do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, because if we're talking about kids, that's like, it's not even worth it. It's not worth it. It is not worth the battle that's going to happen when you get to the point where the kids aren't even making, where they're not even like going back and forth on the point. They're just making noises. Like if they start where they're like, yes, no, no.
No, it wasn't. No,
and
it
then,
wasn't.
Yeah, and you just like, you tune out.
Yeah, but it's a teachable moment, and when I have these moments with them, which are more than I'd like to say, we stop and go, okay, hey, you know what, guys, that's a minor detail. It's not that important. Let's let it go. If he recalls it as being blue, that's fine. We can let him have that. And if you recall it as being red, that's fine as well. No one is going to die because of this discrepancy.
You are such a good mom.
Well, how do you handle it?
I give them a common enemy, me. If you want to start some stuff, I'll finish it, and then everybody can just be mad at me, and we're going about dinner. So when they keep going, I'm like, okay, both of you be quiet right now, or you're going to bed. And then they're like, Mom. I'm like, look, I think I solved the problem. You're both getting along now because you're both mad at me. All right, move it along.
I love our different approaches
apparently
to parenting.
I'm finding as the weeks go on and we're doing this show that I am in fact like Mussolini. Realize it.
Which is so funny because I think of myself as being kind of so much more a dictator, when it comes to kids and raising kids, especially compared to others.
No, I feel like you're Mary
you
Poppins.
take the
You're always just like a spoonful of sugar. And I'm always off with your head. I can't do
But
this.
I'm not letting them get away with it. We're going for the same thing and calling them out on that. But my hope is that when they understand, they become aware of this, they realize how ridiculous it is.
They can figure that out in therapy in 20 years. Right now, I just wanted to stop.
And you see this in adults as well, Twyla, and that's why I think it's so important for us to have these conversations with our kids.
Okay, wait. So
nip it in the bud.
So let's talk about that, because I like to sit and I'll have those discussions with my kids sort of away from the middle of that situation.
Sure.
Like I'll wait till one of them is off to go shower, and I'm like, okay, did you need to do that? Was that important? Let's talk about your role here. Like you're the older sibling, and you know that so you remembered it right. Who wins? Like sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'm just fed with everybody, and y'all just got to get in my face.
Yeah.
But when you kind of transition that to adults, I feel like it becomes very situational, whether I can let somebody be right or even when they're wrong. I will fully admit, I am a married woman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very good to let my husband be right when I know it's wrong, unless, and I fully admit this, unless I'm going to let it all go to trash so I can prove the point. If it's going to prove the point, I'm like, you know what? We're just going to be late for that plane.
So you will scorch the earth to prove the point.
I'll admit I used to be more scorch the earth to prove the point.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore. Like if it's going to ultimately cost me some happiness,
sure,
I won't do that. I used to do that. I used to be very like, fine, I will dig in my heels and watch us all go down in flames. And while we're all burning, I'll be like, I told you so. But I'm still burning. Like it didn't help. So now I think I do it more. I think I try to choose. It's kind of the pick your battles thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll be like right now we're having an ongoing debate about how kids get together in the morning to go to school, because we have kids on every level of school. We got high school, middle, and elementary.
Sure.
And I just don't think you need to do like, Denny's a la carte breakfast for everybody. They can handle themselves. They're bigger kids now. They're teenagers. Sure. 2 of them. But my husband is now in a very solidly like, in order to have a thriving child, you need to provide proper nutrition, and proper nutrition is only created by adults who gave birth to children, which means me.
So the children can only have a healthy breakfast if you're making it instead of him.
Well, like the assumption there is that I should be doing it. I don't do it, so then he does it. But the thing is, once you get to, there's a point at which kids have opinions,
sure,
and actual preferences. So when you decide that this is how you're going to, take care of them, and then you just kind of blanket put your thought process on top of their thought process, here's what happens. You get one, rejected, because kids always find a way to poke you in the soft spot and really hard. 2, frustrated because you've put effort into something that they now are not responding to.
So you're saying they would take care of their own breakfast. You
if
come
you
along
let them.
and then you made breakfast for them.
Right.
And then they're saying, I actually don't like my eggs this way.
Yes. So then, so here's the thing. Did you win if you didn't let the teenager just have the toast with peanut butter, but you made them like an omelet and hash browns and stuff, and they don't want that?
Oh, I got it. So your husband is the one that you're having the disagreement with.
Yeah, because it's not the kids. The kids, if the kids had their way, they would sleep until 2 minutes before the bus left.
Yeah.
They would get dressed and they would just deal with it at lunch. They don't care. Now, mind you, I don't want them to do that. I want them to have a little bit of directionality here.
Sure.
But at the same time, that shouldn't require me to like get up and milk the cows and churn the butter and you don't. It's
so how do you resolve it then? Well, I mean,
okay. So here's what's
happening in your house all the time.
So here's what I do. What I've been doing is I've been stepping out of this.
Sure.
So yes, the opinion part of it, the opinion of you should be helping them do this, that falls squarely into the category of what other people think of me is none of my business. So you can think that you can have that thought. That can be your opinion. And yes, we are partners in this, but that doesn't require me to take action to make your thought process less. You can have that thought all day. If I have things to do, I got things to do.
Yeah.
If I'm going to continue to manage my time the way I manage my time. Now, I've always made it really clear. Everybody has a say. If the kids want me to help with breakfast, they have mouths. I've taught them really. If y'all think I can talk, wait till you meet my children.
Yeah, they can ask for it.
They are super demonstrative children. They will tell me if they need something, and they always have. If they don't tell me and they don't want it from me, then I allow them to do what they want to do with parameters. I won't just let my daughter eat a spoonful of Nutella for breakfast. No.
Yeah, exactly.
But I will make sure that she's directed into taking care of her own business. Now, where he winds up in trouble is I step out, he gets up extra early, takes all this extra time, makes this beautiful plate, and he's looking for 2 things. The satisfaction of having done it and the reaction you're supposed to get from it.
What is the reaction he then gets from the kids?
Meh. and the reaction, that is not the reaction he wants.
But then he still continues to do it. So he still feels that he is correct and right at that. Well, the kids should have a homemade breakfast.
Well, he's
type A. He's going to continue to do it.
Well, he is a type A Asian. So.
Yeah.
He's a super Asian. So he thinks best practices are best practices. And this is what got him to where he is. So he's going to continue to do it.
When something like that, Twyla, it's kind of subjective. Because the question is, do the kids need a breakfast that's made by an adult? Or can they just fend for themselves?
Right.
There's not a true black and white. What about a situation where there's a true black and white? There's a, in terms of schedules, let's say he says, hey, the movie we're going to go see is at 3, and you had just looked at it and it's at 2, and you're like, oh, really? Because I think it's at 2.
Okay.
No, it is definitely 3. Nope, it is 3. It is 3.
Would you like the truth or would you like the lie?
Yeah. Well, obviously we are all about the truth.
Okay, so the truth is, if the movie starts at 2 and he's insistent that it starts at 3, and I want to see my movie, I will employ the person in the household that I know he will listen to.
Your youngest daughter?
Yep. And when you hear that little chirpy voice say, Daddy, I think the movie starts at 2. Can we look? Then all of a sudden the movie starts at 2. We got to go. That's fine. I'm okay with that because sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Now, if it's genuinely not important to me, then sometimes I just let us learn the lesson. I don't care if we're going someplace I really don't want to go. And we're like an hour late. Oh,
might even be 4 o'clock.
Shoot. Now, mind you, when it's really black and white or something like that's like dangerous, then no, I cannot let you be right. Like I have a 14-year-old, and that 14-year-old is now like solidly in the kitchen and wanting to do things, and 14-year-olds have a lot of things. Common sense is not one of them.
Yeah.
So if you're cooking in the kitchen and you want to like play the flip it game with the dish towel over the open flame, I can't let that happen.
Yeah, no.
Or if you're the 14-year-old and you want to go hang out with your buddies after a certain time of day and it's going to get dark and you're like, I'll ride my bike. It's only 4 miles from here. No. Why? Because you got a terrible sense of direction and you don't know the neighborhood.
And that's again more, when especially when you're parenting and you have the overall picture and you're helping them make wise choices. Move it into the realm of, say, outside of your household. You're at
with
a
PTO,
PTA meeting, with other adults.
Girl.
And someone is bringing up, say, let's say, well, I'll use an example that I had recently. It was for football. The football coach emailed out a time that the game was starting. I knew it was wrong because the schedule said something else, the earlier schedule. Now, I was going to email him privately, not to the entire email list.
Yeah, don't do that.
And say, oh, hey, I think it said this. And I stopped myself because I thought, okay, 1, maybe there's something I don't know about this, that the time got changed. 2, I don't want to be that parent because it's come up with stuff before. And I'm like, actually, the previous, the email, I'm a very factual, literal person.
Yes.
So I remember times, dates, and I'm very comfortable in that realm, without the emotion. So I can have a conversation about it. But what I'm learning about what I continue to learn about myself is that can come across very kind of no bestie,
What is no bestie?
They're like, best about everything.
Oh, you're a know-it-all.
I'm a well, yeah, it's kind of. But it's more not all. I mean, if you've listened to Twyla and I for any length of time, including we were on radio, I do not know it all. I know best.
Okay.
So I don't know everything. But Twyla, I know what is the best thing to do.
Okay. I'm gonna patent that to so I'll give you a cut when we put out a t-shirt that says no bestie.
No bestie. Yeah, exactly. It's what it is.
Okay.
So, and this is such a minor little thing. And there was another parent that did correct him and it got corrected and it was fine.
So why did you feel comfortable doing that? That's a factual thing.
Because for me, I'm learning, okay, when, kind of the time and the place, because I'm so... In the way that I work with exact times, dates, places, and that's the way that I remember things as well. And I'm working on that when it is the time and the place to communicate those things without it coming off, like I know best about everything.
Well, no, that's not a no bestie situation because you knew you were right about the time. And you did it just to him. Yeah. When the time and place comes into it, if you were going to respond to everybody and be like, okay, well, point of order.
Oh,
just so y'all know, I think it's 2:00, not 3:00. That's different. That's different when you're injecting yourself as an authority figure in a situation. I think when you're dealing in facts and the facts are pretty concrete, like it either starts at 2 or it doesn't start at 2, you're okay.
Yeah. And I think after it was all said and done, I actually what I felt bad about was that I didn't email him. Well, I'm like, you know what, if I saw something, I should have said something, which is the way that I work and I operate. And it kind of got me to see how, okay, if my instinct is, okay, I need to provide this information and I'm doing it from a place, and we talk a lot about where it's coming from, what your intention is to be helpful, and for the good of everyone, then I can't be too concerned with how someone else might take it. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like this outside influence of, and think about it, Twyla, you and I are in kind of a different position in that for a living, we give our opinion.
Yes.
For a living, we talk about what we think about everything.
Well,
for a living, we tell you how y'all should be living your lives.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. Well, before this was something I made a living at, I told y'all how to live your lives. I'm kind of pushy like that sometimes.
But don't, and I don't know if you experience this after years of doing this, and I do it also as a columnist. I write about myself and what I think about things, where I guess maybe it's an inner struggle of what is appropriate. And here's what I'm finding. For me, for someone who, for a living, I write these columns, we do this show, we talk about the joys and pitfalls of being grown women. That's just how it is. And just like you said, even before we did this was our personality and this is how we are.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. For me, it's never a discussion about appropriateness.
Sure.
Because I always think I'm appropriate.
That's your t-shirt. Always appropriate.
Or no, always think I'm
always
appropriate. I always think I'm appropriate. I think what it sometimes comes down to for me is, am I adding value to the conversation or am I just talking to hear myself talk?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm very conscious of that because, and I think that's one of those things when you're aware of who you are as a person, when you have a real full self-understanding of yourself, you know there are certain things that you're good at and that you have to be careful not to sort of be the best at it at all times. I'm good at talking. I'm completely comfortable in a room with one person, 5 people, 1,000, 12,000 people. I don't care. I will talk if you want me to talk. So if I'm in a room like that and that ability to do that and that comfort level will create sway, I will try to be very conscious of the fact that we're having a discussion and I'm not going to put my 2 cents in here until I think it's necessary or warranted.
Sure.
If it's something that has nothing to do with me, like if we're talking about the price of tea in China, I don't actually have to have my say in the price of tea in China.
Yeah, so that's something that you could let someone have their opinion on. And this whole question of can you let someone be right even when you know they're wrong? To truly know for sure they're wrong, I think we're talking about things that are pretty black and white in terms of facts because you can prove it. It's different from if somebody has an opinion about something that's so subjective.
Well, but I think that's what makes this question harder is the subjective because 99.9% of the time we are not arguing about what the facts are. We're not. We're not arguing about the fact of is it 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. We are arguing about what is the best practices for serving breakfast for children. Yeah. We are arguing about what political party is better. We are arguing about how we think we're treated versus how someone views us. And those are when you get that gray area, that is when it gets really hard to decide.
Well, that's where you get into trouble. And maybe
that's why my whole Facebook feed is full of people that are yelling at me all the time. And here's the funny part. I don't actually say stuff on Facebook that's incendiary. I share stuff and go, hey, why don't we think about this?
Yeah, no, exactly.
I don't actually say you bunch of dummies are wrong. I say, I don't understand this. I'm going to try to understand a little better. Let me introduce something. And then I immediately have people who know me, who genuinely know me, jump into my mentions talking about, no, this is what I feel about this, and I don't know how you can think about that. I'm like, I didn't tell you to think about anything. I didn't tell you to think any kind of way. I just told you to think about it.
I just brought it up. Exactly. And that's kind of to my point, and that makes a lot of sense, where when we're having the difference between a discussion is being open to the idea, being tolerant of the idea that another idea or way to see this might exist outside of yours. And you can be willing for it to exist without having to attack it, or you can still be confident in your own views on it and be next to somebody who has a complete opposing view.
Okay, so now that automatically makes our question like incendiary. Because we didn't ask if you could let somebody have an opposing view. We asked if you can let somebody be right even if you think they're wrong. Or well, no, we didn't even say think. We said when you know they're wrong.
But don't you think, though, to a degree, Twyla, let's say the discussion is about over, in your situation, it was over a parenting issue.
Yeah.
You feel very right and know you're right in what you feel. Your husband feels very right and knows he's right in what his view is on how to tackle this. At the end of the day, the kids get fed. If one is more effective over the other, that'll show itself in time.
No, I just want to be right because I'm the one with the structure. That's
well,
just
and that is the point, though. Yeah. Where does that come from? I feel, and maybe it's funny because on this, I think you and I are very similar, but kind of opposite on it. Like I feel I can look at something and someone can have an opposing view, and not in terms of facts. My struggle is facts when it's actual black and white. Actually, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm really open when it comes to, well, you think that kids should go to bed at, you know, if you're 8 years old, you should go to bed at 7:30. And I think, well, if you're 8 years old, you should go to bed at 8:30. I'm open to that discussion because I don't know all the circumstances and I don't know all of the facts. Can I let that go? Absolutely. But don't tell me you put your kid to bed at 7:30 last night. And I know for a fact, because I was there and I saw it, that it was 8:30.
Okay. But see, that I don't care about.
See, and that's where I get tweaked on that.
You know? Well, that's because you're a detail-oriented person. See, I am a disorganized person. So you're almost never going to have to argue with me about facts, because I'm always going to be like, your facts is right, girl, because I was not paying attention. I don't even know your name. I've been calling you honey for 7 years. It's fine. But, you know, that's usually me. But I get caught up. I tend to get caught up in the philosophical things. Like, and here I'll be honest. I get caught up in the things that will determine ultimately if you're a good human or not.
Sure.
So if we are having a philosophical debate, and not even that, if we're having a practical debate about things that are important, things that need to get changed or whatever it is, I get angry or I get frustrated or I get like incensed when I start thinking, your thought process is what leads to X, Y, and Z.
Exactly. Sure.
So then because I always think, you know, as my mother and father always taught me, you don't just stand around and let something happen if you know what's happening is wrong.
Yes.
So if someone is attempting to do something or preach a point or make a statement that will lead to a blanket misunderstanding of an individual or a group of people or a situation or a structure, I'm usually the one who's going to say, whoa, that you do realize that we can't just think of it that way, right?
Sure.
Like, we have to actually be bigger. We have to actually take this apart. And I don't do that because I want to hear myself talk. I do that because it's that idea of what side of history do you want to be on?
Exactly. And you do it, like you said, you did it before podcast, you did it before radio.
Listen, the best thing that ever happened to me was somebody offered to pay me money to do this. Do you know how happy my husband became when he realized he didn't have to listen to all this? That there was an actual place, a conduit where I could put all of these, like, you know, rants and leanings and greater good discussion.
I shudder to think.
Our dinner table used to be much more fraught, because it would be like, there'd be a point in dinner where I'd be like, I have something to say. And then everybody would be like, oh, Lord.
Well, and I have an outlet. I mean, it's why people used to journal and still do. Some still do.
Yeah, I still do that. I journal.
But diaries, you know, way back in the day, I think way before television became so relevant and the internet, you know, there was a lot more of diaries going on. You know, people writing down their thoughts.
Okay, wait. Now, you actually said that, and that actually sort of triggered a memory that proves that I cannot let anybody be wrong. Because a few years ago, my mom found a box of my things in the attic, and she saved them for me to see. And one of the things in there was like my 12-year-old diary.
Oh my gosh.
Right. But when I totally didn't understand what the concept of a diary was for. And so I just wrote everything I hated and all the stuff I was ranting about.
I was thinking that is exactly what your diary would have been about.
Yeah. So if I had died at 12,
you didn't write like about boys you like.
Hell no. I wrote about, there's a whole passage in there, and I can tell the story because my older sister knows about it. I wrote an entire passage about how much I hate my older sister. and it was like, I hate her face, I hate her lips, I hate her eyes, I hate her hair, I hate that she's nice to people, I hate that she's not nice to me, I hate that she's like, it was all of these things about like how much I hate her. Now here's the weird part. She had like moved out. She wasn't even in the house anymore at that point when I wrote this. So I think from someplace at 12, I must have written it like being angry at her for leaving.
Yeah,
and I didn't know how else to express it. I didn't want to write like I miss my sister. It was just like, no, I hate that heifer. She could never come back.
Well, and often it's easier to have those feelings towards someone to make that kind of a departure easier. You
know?
But
here's the thing. For years, that's how I used my journals. I used my journals as the place to put all the angry shit.
And I think that's common.
And you can't do that. You have to be mature enough at some point to like have your feelings and put them someplace productive, or at least be able to discuss them productively. Like I will be honest, I had like a ritual of journal burning years ago. Because all the journals were awful, and they were like my most inner like ick. Like they were like the tar pit of my soul.
Sure.
And I just didn't want to pass away and have that be something that's left for my for people who love me.
Yeah, because your children would publish that later.
No, they would just probably read it around the campfire and just laugh at me. But I mean, like it was one of those things where I didn't even want it to be a representation of who I am.
Yeah.
Like that's part of that. Like, I think there was a part of me at one point in time where, and I used to tell you, I was a fighter. I didn't start stuff, but I always like to finish it. So if you started an argument with me, I told you it would be like, okay, let's go. Roll your sleeves up. Get the Vaseline out. You are going down. Have I been clear? You're going down. And I wouldn't stop until you just were begging for mercy.
Yeah.
I used to argue with my husband so hard that he physically couldn't make eye contact with me anymore.
Well, you guys used to argue about things like dish placement.
Right. And because we're both alphas, but I was taught to be such a fighter for what a survivalist that I didn't understand that you don't have to survive everything.
Do you think that, and for you went through all that, and that obviously it improved and it got better. You wouldn't be able to do what you do today with discussing issues and views if it did not get better.
Yeah.
What made it better?
To be honest, I had to reach the point as an individual where you have to realize, like, there's a day that comes where you can physically almost feel how much you're carrying every day, where you feel the tightness of your shoulders and the knot in your stomach and the weight on your chest and the constant, like, sort of ticking at the back of your brain. That's just like, I am so mad at everything on the low all the time. Why? Why am I always so mad at this?
Yeah.
And then it became, if you're mad at stuff without taking action to do something about it, you're just as bad as everybody else in the world.
So it's when you started actually taking action over some of these things. Because so if I'm understanding you have things you're upset about in the world.
Yeah.
And you're just, writing about it, say in your journal, or you're internalizing it. And you're not doing more about it that you feel you should be doing.
Right.
So then you end up
powerless.
taking it out on your husband.
Well, I wound up taking it out. I wound up taking it out on the world. That's why. That's why I could never let anybody be wrong. I was going to make sure you knew that you were wrong, and I am right, and that is important. and you're right. I mean, it could be about anything. We could be arguing about the favorite Sesame Street character, and I'm not stopping until you're in tears and you acknowledge Snuffleupagus. That's it.
So and I think you made a really good point where you said you realized you did not have to be fighting all the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of, do you think then, I feel like we take our baggage from childhood, our experiences in life earlier, and when we don't take those glasses off with all that filter in there from our past, when we don't take the glasses of our past off, we see things currently like it's still back then.
But I think everybody does that.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. I think the solution is to be aware and self-aware, to go, okay, am I seeing what's coming at me, this thing that I disagree with, or this person who is insisting something is black when I can obviously see it's purple? Can I let that go and let them have that? Because this is not 5 years, 2 years, 10, 20 years ago when I was having to fight for my right for this, or fight for myself for this. This is not the same thing. I think we become more tolerant.
Yeah, I think it becomes two things. I don't even think it's tolerance. I think it's empathy. I think what happened to me personally is I eventually realized that I have a lot of power over my situation, how I handle it, how I view it, how I take action. And that power allowed me to start making better decisions about who I was going at. Like, I don't need to drive the librarian to tears.
Yeah.
We don't have to argue over, this, whatever it is. And that sort of understanding that I do have power, because I think a lot of that comes from feeling powerless.
And do you think, though, that feeling powerless, and I try to relate it to even what other, women our age or women like us are going through, when you maybe feel that you can't fight back in a situation, that you end up becoming almost obsessive about going at it in kind of a bit of a twisted way.
Amen. 1000%. The tipping point for me in getting on what the path is to become the person that I am now was at my first real job. I had a terrible, terrible boss. I've told the story a million times. I don't name the company. I don't name the man. He can't sue me. If he ever showed up in front of me, I'd probably hit him with my bat. He was a terrible human. And every day that I worked at that job, he was verbally abusive. He threw me under the bus constantly. He undermined me. He berated me in front of superiors. He used to schedule a meeting once a week on a Thursday, and we would go in a conference room. He would shut the door. He would yell at me, top volume, for 40 minutes, and then walk out.
Wow.
And I was at this job for like a little under a year.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was like a professional job.
Yeah.
And I had gone to college for this, and this is what my parents had wanted for me. And it was in my field, which was really hard to get into. And you don't question it. This has to be how professional white collar work works, right?
Yeah, sure. And it's your first job.
Yeah, I didn't know any better. And I can honestly tell you that because I walked into a building and for 8+ hours a day, I put up with that. When I walked out of that building, you couldn't tell me nothing. It was go time. I was like a walking DMX video. I was, don't look at me sideways at the bus stop. Don't look at me sideways in the grocery store.
Sure.
Do not look at me sideways in the movie theater, because it's go time.
Yeah.
Like, I will tear you apart.
Well, and that's probably where that saying comes from. You never know what somebody's struggle is.
Yeah, absolutely.
You never know what's going on in their household or what went on in their past. And I think that is part of, if we keep that in mind as well. And I try to remember that if I'm dealing with an individual who, to me, it seems very logical, and I'm in a place of peace about it, and I'm not upset, and I'm communicating something that either needs to be done or happen, and this person is just conflict. I try to remember this person is going through something. There's a struggle there. It has nothing to do with me or probably even what we're talking about.
See, that's empathy, though. That's that beautiful place you reach. And I don't know what triggers that in people. I can only say for myself, it truly didn't get triggered until I had somebody else to think of that was more important than me. I had kids, and all of a sudden I could see other people's experience in a much more clear and open way than
Sure.
I did when it was just me looking through my lens, trying to be understanding of you.
Yeah.
I would say I get you. And I did get you. I got that on the surface that you were this kind of person. You looked like this. You acted like this. But I didn't try to understand your heart. And I had kids, and all of a sudden it was like, I love this person endlessly, and I want to know everything about them. And all of a sudden it made me want to be more open to the idea that everybody is somebody's everything. Like every person started out in the world, if they were lucky, as somebody's whole heart.
Exactly.
And that made me much more willing to, and even now it makes me much more willing to listen to my friends that I went to high school with that are like extreme Trump supporters, and and they have very strong opinions about
Sure.
why they care about him, why they love him, why they support him, and it is very different than me. But I get now that they were on a path, and that path led them there.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't undermine my worldview to acknowledge and respect their worldview. I don't have to agree with it.
Exactly. It also doesn't threaten your worldview or threaten and I think that's kind of the key and the important thing to remember when we're dealing with when whatever your situation is, when you're faced where you have a situation where someone else has a different opinion or different view of the actual facts. We can still be good in our own truth. What happened. We know what the truth is for us. They might have a different reality, and all right, that's a different reality.
And this is when I always tell people that's the critical juncture where, when I understand my reality works this way and yours works that way, my job is not to spend energy trying to convince you to change your mind. My job is to show you through action that I am who I say I am.
Yeah.
My job is to continue to walk my path and use my energy and my good work to advance the things that I believe in. So could I sit on Facebook for 2 hours and argue with you about whether he's right or wrong?
Then you're sidetracked. You're sidetracked from what you intend to do.
I'd rather take those 2 hours and go do the thing that I said I was going to do today, which is like go gather up some clothes to donate, or go really research the charities for hurricane relief that somebody told me were the good ones to support.
Yeah.
Or go visit my friend who has been a little bit down lately, and I haven't done a good enough job of making sure I check in with her. I'm trying to make sure that the energy I put out into the world now is better energy. I mean, I can be petty as all get out. Don't get me wrong. If you've read my Twitter feed, you know my petty game is strong. But I at least try to make sure that I'm tempering my petty game with genuine, true, emotion and genuine, true effort and genuine, true humanness. Like I'm trying at every turn to be the best human that I can.
Yeah, and you're happier for it, don't you think? Then when you make that conscious choice to, I'm not going to stop and argue about this with this person. I'm going to let it go. I know what the truth is for me. and I'm going to, I'm busy doing what I'm doing and pursuing these things. You're happier. When you're in that moment of thinking, well, no, but this is just wrong. This person is wrong. I need to show them how they're wrong. Stop for a minute and think, what time and effort are you going to put into that when you could be pursuing it, doing your own thing, going down the road you want to go on? Of course, a short, time and place. Obviously, if someone's going to die, you want to step in.
Well, no, I mean, even that point, because sometimes I disagree with people and I don't want to argue with them, but sometimes I genuinely want to understand them. I'm always willing to have a discussion.
Yes, but
I'm always willing to have a discussion.
But having a discussion doesn't lead to it being this angry, frustrated, causing you stress.
Yeah, where you like unfollow me on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. No, if you're going down that poisonous well, then that's where I say pull it back. And get yourself back on track, be comfortable and stable in your own truth, and keep walking and doing what you're doing. By that same measure, there's nothing, it's great when you can have a conversation, but that's the thing, it takes two people to have a conversation.
Actually, it doesn't. Sometimes it just takes one. I'll be honest. Sometimes it just takes one. You know why? And I used to say that it takes
because
two people.
You're right.
No, maybe. No, I've learned this, and it's something that's really new to me. Sometimes when somebody's coming at me and they just aren't hearing it and they just aren't having it, what I will stop and do is ask them very specific things to the point. Yeah. Like ask them like to contextualize it for me, to give me a little more detail.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of that?
And guess what winds up happening? The person who is trying not to have a conversation with me, that's just trying to yell at me and tell me I'm wrong, is now talking to me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're doing it in a way that it amuses me, because they think they're like helping the poor little stupid girl who doesn't get it.
They're enlightening you.
Yeah, they really think they're like, let me help you understand what you don't get.
Yeah.
And then, but here's the thing. They're having a discussion with me. Yeah. And the thing is, sometimes when you're really angry about a point, you don't have detail to back it up, the argument kind of undoes itself. Yeah. So yes, and there I am. I'm letting you be wrong, because guess what? Eventually you're going to figure it out too. and then sometimes they're still wrong in that, they still firmly believe in their wrongness, but they've at least explained it to a point where I get where they're coming from.
Yeah, where you can understand, like, okay, what we're arguing about isn't even the issue. And I find that almost every single time where I've been in a situation where there's been extreme conflict with an individual, it's usually has nothing to do with what you're actually arguing about. Mm-hmm. Nothing at all. Almost one. In fact, I would probably say 1 for 1. And that for me is when it resolves, because I can walk away from it and go, okay, I don't agree with this. That is not my view. But I understand how this person would have that view based on their past history or based on the type of person that they are. We are who we are. And we tend to be pretty consistent across the board in how we handle things or how we deal with people.
Yes.
It might vary a little bit, but at the core, it's the same. So if you have, say, a neighbor, Twyla, who, just compulsively lies, would you really expect anything else? And would you then get upset because they're always trying to convince you that garbage pickup day is on a day that it's not? You just, and you go, all right, I know that it's on Tuesday, even though they always swear it's on Wednesday, but I'm going to let it go because that person's got a little bit of a issue.
Right.
And that's not my fight to fight. That's okay. I'm just going to keep doing Tuesday and my garbage will be taken out. We can still accomplish what we want without having to have somebody else agree with us.
I agree that we can accomplish what we want without having somebody else agree with us. It's kind of how I live my whole life. Kind of works for me. Okay, so I guess this means we should ask the question and see if we actually answered it. Can you let someone else be right even if you know they are wrong?
I feel that I can when it comes to objective situations very easily. I struggle when it comes to provable facts, but that's the part I'm working on. I would say I'm working on letting them sit in their error and totally wrong. That's my challenge.
I will admit, I was hoping at the end of this that it would have swayed my answer. Still the same. No, I can't let you be wrong if I know you're wrong. Yeah. And I may be more tactful. I may not carry a big stick anymore, but I think I still find a way to try to at least get you to consider that maybe there's a better path.
Yeah, and I think our challenge to listeners is think about that when you're in an argument or a disagreement, whatever it is. Step back and ask yourself, number one, is this really going to matter in the grand scheme of things if this person thinks that all apples are purple and I know that they are red? If not, let it go. Number 2, could this be about something else that you don't even know about? You know, and how distracted are you going to get by it? Because there's so much. We're busy people.
Yeah, I think that's one to grow on, people. Okay, as always, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think. You need to get in touch with us. Go to the Facebook page. Go to Facebook and type in Matriarch Digital Media. You should have already liked the page. If you haven't, please do. And there's a little send message tab off to the right-hand side. Click on that and send an email to the show. Email Twyla and Natalie. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you agree with us, if you have better methods. And as always, we do this because of your support. And we are so grateful that you are here and that we get to talk to you. So thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.